This is how to save the world. For decades, billions have been invested in green energy, environmentally friendly transportation, and renewable fuels. Well, step aside, Elon, because we already know the secret. For millennia, voyagers have relied on the power of the wind to cross vast oceans, often making incredible discoveries along the way. From the giant tortoise, exotic Indian spices, and even the New World. Setting to sea, reliant on the power of the Earth's breath, is truly magical. At a run or a sprint, we watch the ocean explode across our bows, and our wake seemingly stretch for miles behind us. A symphony of nature playing out under our keels. But there is one thing that can make this conductor freeze in place. The torturous moment of being becalmed, trapped in a vacuum devoid of breeze. This prison of stillness has been known to induce madness in many a crew. But when has that ever stopped us before? Well, it's 5 a.m. We are about to do something that we really, really don't want to do. We are going to lift anchor and sail away from the Gambier. We absolutely don't want to be doing this, but time is of the essence. We need to make a move. We will explain more on the way.
So yeah, we kind of screwed up. That shouldn't surprise many of you. Unfortunately, we are currently at the furthest south point in French Polynesia, a massive country that covers the area of Europe. And we need to make it to the furthest north point in just a few weeks because Brownie's parents are flying in to visit, which is really exciting. We're really looking forward to it. This will be their second time on the boat, which is great. And also, we really love the idea of showing them around French Polynesia. However, they can only fly into a place 1,000 miles away. And we're a sailboat, so trying to travel to a schedule is never fun. And right now there's almost no wind. So yeah, we are going to try and do French Polynesia end to end in just a couple of weeks with potentially no wind all the way there. What could go wrong? So here's one happy girl.
I am so excited. I really don't want to be leaving the Gambier. It was a goal to get here, it was a mission to get here, and I have loved every single second of being in these islands. But I think the only thing that could draw me away early is my parents flying out. So when did we last see them?
Oh, wow.
A year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably longer than that. It's been a really, really long time, and we have loved French Polynesia so much. I am so glad that they get to come out and see some of what we have fallen in love with here. So yeah, it's a very good reason to be hightailing it to the opposite end of the country, and I'm just going to sit the whole time being like this. Yay!
No, she really is. She really is going to sit like that the whole time. The whole time.
We have just motored over the top of the reef, which is essentially the pass here. So I guess that means we have officially left the Gambier. How are you feeling about it?
It's a weird mix. Like we've often said, the magic time to leave somewhere is right before you think you've done everything you wanted to do there.
Yeah, so you miss one thing.
You always have to miss one thing, and that's the perfect time, because if you do that one thing, you'll probably end up staying an extra week or two, and it'll feel like you've outstayed your welcome, or like you're trapped. So I'm trying to decide if we've left one thing open or 10 things open. We definitely saw almost all of it. Let's just put it that way. I think we'd probably have done like one more anchorage, and then we would have done everything. So that's our one thing that we're leaving behind. And it's not really an anchorage as well. It's basically a bunch of pearl farms you have to navigate through. So it would have taken us days to get there and then just days to get back, I guess.
Yeah, so we had planned to go up to that corner, but with the bad weather that came through just the other day, it meant that we would have been navigating through like the most amount of bommies we've ever seen in one area with like heavy rain and total cloud cover. So it just made no sense to try and do it that day. And so we would have to stay another week if we wanted to get there. And then it just has a knock-on effect to everything. So I don't want to be leaving, but I do think... That's it. I'm just focusing on that. I'm like, oh, this is so lovely. I want to stay forever. But you're right. We do try and leave just before we feel like we've seen everything, because, yeah, that's what works. Oh my goodness, I've just seen those mountains in the sunlight, aren't they? With the like cloud over the top. That's a ridiculous view to leave on. So you might have noticed that we don't have any sails up yet, and the sea is looking incredibly flat. Yes, that is a problem. This is definitely not a great weather window that we have picked. It is the best we could find. We could have left like 10 days ago and missed out on basically all of our time here in the Gambier, or we could wait an indefinite amount of time and hope that some wind shows up. But we also didn't feel like we could do that. So hopefully the wind is going to fill in slightly. We've got like at least a week of sailing ahead of us. We really hope that we don't have to motor the whole way, because I don't think we have enough fuel to do that. So we're just gonna head this way, wait for the wind to arrive, and basically 1,000 miles that way is Tikehau. So let's go! So this is pretty much our best case scenario for the next however many days we're at sea. I don't think we're going to get enough wind to fly the white sails, but if we can keep the wind behind us, then we've got the Falcon up and leading the way. It is just about holding and staying full. Occasionally it kind of flaps a little bit because we've only got like 8 knots of wind and we're going at 4. So it's only seeing 4 knots apparent. And I guess that is our lower limit. Now we know, but yeah, if we can keep that going for the next 1,000 miles, this could be really delightful. Are you ready for a perfect week at sea?
I mean, if everything holds, if we can keep our wind above, I think 9 knots true,
yep,
the sail doesn't collapse on us and we get like 5 knots of boat speed. Then the next part will be whether or not the autopilot holds, because it's still running on superglue, and I think it will manage, but if it doesn't hold, then this is going to be 1,000 miles of hand steering.
Hooray!
So there's wood somewhere on this boat, but I hope it holds. Otherwise, straight line, just carry on for a week and a bit.
Perfect. It's always really strange setting off on a long passage, because it's like a little bit of a rush to get everything ready. So getting the boat prepped, getting the Spinnaker out on deck. We were uploading an episode last night for you guys, trying to get it scheduled so that that will still go out while we are completely off-grid and offshore. But then as soon as we set sail, it's like, oh, there's nothing to do now. We can just relax, and Indy is going to take us to where we want to go. So there's very little activity and sort of responsibility on us. So now we can actually start to tune down and enjoy the day. Well, that might have been the best first day of a passage we could have hoped for. It has been kind of boring, to be honest, because the wind has just been so consistent. We've just had the Spinnaker out all day and just floating along. 2 tiny little squalls came over, so we socked the Spinnaker, waited for the rain to pass, and then just put it out again. And other than that, we have had nothing to do. The waves have stayed really low, the wind has not picked up. So now it is getting to sunset and the light is starting to fade, and normally we would put it away and put our mainland Genoa up, but I just don't know that there's quite enough wind to fill our white sails, and we really don't want to motor if we can help it. So we are very tempted to leave the Spinnaker up at night. We've like looked out at the clouds and there's nothing coming our way. We've got radar, we can keep an eye open for things. So we may just leave the Spinnaker up into the dark, and at the first sign of trouble we'll put it away and switch over and see what we get. But yeah, it's quite nice moving when we can, and we don't really want to give that up, especially you.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. We've had like, I think a max wind of what, 13 knots other than the squalls. So as long as we don't get hit by a squall, what's the difference? Like, there's no traffic around. There's no one for hundreds of miles. I just looked The next bit of land is about a day away.
Yeah.
So there's no one around. we can do this. So it's around midnight. We have been crawling all evening. The wind has not really changed, so we're still seeing like 10 knots of true wind and making maybe at best 5.5, 6 knots of boat speed. But it's been slow going compared to what we were kind of hoping for, maybe not expecting. I think we expected this. And certainly now that we've settled into passaging, we've kind of gone, you know what? Yeah, it's fine. We're going to do a long distance. It's going to take as long as it takes. And thank goodness we have the asymmetric spinnaker, because had we not had that, this would have been a very different story. I think it's probably worth explaining, because some of you probably don't sail that much in long passages. Some of you might not have asyms. Some of you might not even have a boat. One of the things we have to take into account when we're doing a passage like this, which is 1,000 miles end to end, from the furthest south point to the furthest north, is if we're going to have to motor. And if we are, we're going to have to use diesel. And if we're going to do that, can we pull over in places to top up? Because where we are in the world, quite often there's no fuel for a long way. In fact, the Gambier, there's no fuel there. If you want to get any, you have to organize a ship from Tahiti to bring it to you in advance. You have to notify them like more than a week in advance, and then they bring you diesel. So yeah, it's not really kind of convenient to just pull over at the next island. They probably don't have any fuel. So had we not had the ASIM, we were basically looking at being sat in the Gambier, either waiting for a supply ship to bring us fuel to put on the back of the boat, kind of like we did when we first crossed the Pacific, so that we'd have the spare for extra range and motor the whole way, or we'd have to sit around and wait for the weather to change. And annoyingly, we don't really have the time to sit around and wait for the weather. So yeah, for now we will crawl along at 5.5 knots, and we'll just enjoy it for what it is, enjoy the journey. And to be honest, we've done pretty well because there's not been any major squalls. The weather's generally been pretty clear. The sky is clear. The moon is sort of half brightness. It's a half moon, half size. And nothing is going wrong so far. We're just closing in on the first atoll we've seen in a while. What's it called? Fakumaru, I think it's called. Fakamaru. And if we get close enough, I'll try and get us some Starlink and we'll see what's going on in the world. But otherwise, it's just Bernie Eye, Indioko, and the open ocean. Good morning. Yep, it is 6 a.m. I think. Bride just did the graveyard shift, so I got about 5 hours sleep. And as predicted, we didn't manage to keep the sail up overnight. We actually ended up on a barber hold Genoa with one engine running, just because, as you might guess, as soon as the sun went down, the wind just vanished. So we kind of crawled our way through the night. However, we're still making good progress. And the sun is up, and so is the Spinnaker. So we went straight back to Spinnaker on the changeover, which is amazing. We're moving pretty fast given the light conditions and things being all turbulent, but I'm okay with that.
Well, you probably won't be too surprised to hear it, but the engines are back on again. Well, just one of them. We have just been in that really frustrating phase where the wind is just tipping between 7 and 9 knots true, and that's pretty much the limit for what will keep the Spinnaker full. And if there were no waves at all, I think we could probably just about get away with it. But because there's this slight rolling swell that is hitting us side on, it kept meaning that the Spinnaker was collapsing and filling again, and that's just not great for it. So we have taken the unfortunate decision to pull it down, throw an engine on. We have got a Genoa out in some semblance of hope, but this is fast turning into needing a little grumpy cam graphic around us because we're both just a bit fed up. We did manage to get onto the internet as we passed that atoll this morning, and unfortunately it just confirmed what we were afraid of, that basically the wind is dying off today and it's probably not going to come back. I was hoping we would get till sunset with the sails up, but it was not to be. So this could be it now. We're almost, I want to say almost halfway. We're not really quite, but I'm being optimistic. So we may have quite a lot of motoring in our future, which is frustrating for whoever is on watch because The boat just moves differently and you don't settle into it quite as much. It makes us a little bit more seasick than normal. And whoever is sleeping can't really sleep because they've got the noise of an engine right in their ear. So it is not ideal, but I'm going to try and make the most of it. So I am going to have a lovely afternoon. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to bake some bread. I might do some sewing. I'm just going to do all the nice things to cheer me up because otherwise, yeah, this is not going to be a fun 4, 5, 6 days left on this passage. And now here's the excitement for the day. We have a squall approaching. It is supposedly still 4 miles away, but we have seen the wind jump from 6 knots to 20. And I don't think I have ever been as happy to see a rain cloud. So if you listen, we've got the engines off. Just a Genoa out, flying it around. I don't know if anything's going to come of it. I can see a lovely rainbow. It's quite massive, but this might be the best that we get. A little bit of rain and a wee gust of wind at the beginning to send us on our way, and then in half an hour's time we'll be back to nothing again. But hey, enjoy it while it lasts.
All right, I have just gotten up, and now that I've joined the party, Spinnaker's up, and we are flying again at 4.5-ish knots out of 9.5 true, which is pretty good.
Are you trying to claim that you're winning at sailing?
I am winning at sailing. When I'm not here, you get
really grumpy because the engine's going on and you're
I
like,
get very grumpy.
Then I can't sleep.
But also, when I'm not here, we're going slower in the wrong direction, so.
I know, the squall came past and that was lovely. And then it left. That was lovely,
let that be on record. It was raining and windy. You can't take a girl out of Scotland, but you can't take Scotland out of the girl.
Well, then all the clouds left and we were only going at 2.5 knots and I couldn't bring myself to put the engine back on because it was so nice and quiet. But I was like, we're literally never going to make it if we don't do something. So we'll see how long this lasts, but it is quite nice to be moving without a grrr.
It is, really is. I mean, the ironic thing is we've put ourselves in something of a dilemma because we both absolutely love our nanny engines, as you probably gathered along the way. And they are way, way quieter and more fuel efficient than the Yanmars that we used to have. We do like to sail, and sailing
I want to use the engines for like going in between narrow gaps between coral bodies.
Or picking up a mooring ball when we're being lazy or something.
Yeah, I don't want to use it when we're like trying to go 1,000 miles from one end of the country to the other.
No, they deserve their rests. They work hard when they run.
Yeah.
They need to chill. So so we'll push on with the sails as long as humanly possible, even if that means going at 2 knots in the wrong direction, apparently. Actually, another fun fact for those of you who are paying attention, normally when we're sailing along near any land, this time of day is actually a kind of a little red herring because as the sun goes down, you usually get a little gust. And that's because the temperature of the water cools down at a different rate from the temperature of the land. And so the air above it kind of gets sucked across the sea and we get a little burst of wind. Whereas we are so far from any land, there's no change. In fact, what we actually expect is as it goes into the evening, the wind will usually die out more and more until it's like mill pond flat. And then it picks up in the morning. But that's only happened once or twice on this passage. I'm losing track. How many days have we been out here? Anyway, either way, the message is there isn't enough land around for us to get the benefits of a little gust at sunset. So we just have to hope that it sticks around at this exact level all night.
We sailed and motored the rest of the way up the remainder of the 700 miles northwest until time seemed to merge into itself and we had no idea what day it was or who needed more sleep.
All right, as you can tell from the scene behind me, it is not only dusk, but it is also basically zero wind. We have been doing a combination of sailing and motor sailing for, 4 days now, I think. The Falcon did a good job for a long time. However, we did discover that once the apparent wind dropped below about 4 knots, the Falcon just starts flagging and the boat doesn't go anywhere. So we had to fire on the iron sails and they have been They've been putting a shift in, I'll tell you. Nanny has been working non-stop, both of them, for, yeah, almost 4 days straight at this point.
I was so hopeful that we would be able to sail.
I know, we did well for the first part as well. When you think about it, we left the Gambier with the Falcon up, flying along. Well,
it was going to be so perfect.
It was pretty good. Like, it was going to be a dream sail of like 1,000 miles all the way up to the very top of the Tuamotus just on one sail.
We have not made it that far.
Oh yeah, we're not actually anywhere near the top of the Tuamotus right now. We have come quite a bit. So we've come from the Gambier kind of up into the main bulk of the Tuamotus in the northwest. And we're running on fumes. It's getting a bit dicey.
Yeah, there's not very much left in the tank, but I was just checking the charts. We've got about 20 miles to go, and there is an atoll up ahead that has a fuel station. Okay. So if we can make it that last little distance...
If we can make it that last little distance, we'll be fine. When you think about it, the last time we filled up was in Hao, and since then we have gone all the way to the Gambier, done a circumnavigation of the Gambier, and come all the way back up past Hao, which is way back over the horizon over there. So
yeah, that's quite a long way.
We've done all right. Our fuel economy is pretty ridiculous. It has to be
said.
Mileage. I'm very, very pleased with that. However, we are going to have to find somewhere pretty fast. So it is getting dark, as you can tell by the moon behind us, and the sun has already set. So I don't quite know how we're going to do this because going through these atolls in the dark can be a little bit dicey.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, but it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
We'll make it.
It'll be fine.
No
we
problem.
do need to make that t-shirt. It'll be fine. This is a pretty common catchphrase.
So the plan is we are going to go in bang on at slack tide. We have a full moon and basically zero wind. So we're sort of reducing as many of the stresses as we can, and hopefully it'll all go fine.
And let's not forget, we've barely got any fuel whatsoever.
Oh yeah, well, I was saying we're trying to reduce as many stresses as possible. Not all of them.
Not all of them. Yeah, we've been like just above idle for the last 7 hours, 6 hours. I don't know how long it's been.
We'll start rowing in a minute.
We should have enough to make it through, I think. But we're past the line. Let's just put it that way.
So I was just joking that I could always just jump in and swim behind the boat, pushing Indy along if we really needed to. But if you can't recognize this pass in the dark, this is Fakarava South Pass, which if you have been watching our videos for a few months, you might remember this is home to 700 sharks. Right beneath us, there are 700 reef sharks swimming around, and it's nighttime, so we know they're hunting. Yeah, there's no chance I'm getting in the water right now.
That's us heading into the trench now, and it is getting shallow.
Eek! This is so surreal coming in. It's like deadly quiet. Obviously, nobody is awake, but just the stillness of everything as we arrive. It's quite beautiful, but then you remember what's lurking underneath. Not just the sharks that are out to kill us, but really hoping that our charts are bang on and we don't run aground into any coral as we come to this narrow bit with a wiggle in it.
I mean, if our engine's cut out now, there is nothing we could do. We are running aground and we've had it.